Hi, my name is Jonathan Shaw, and I'm the team leader with Youth Ministry Development, YMD. I initially trained as a primary school teacher and taught for 11 years, while also volunteering with Dublin Christian Mission Youth Work for about 14 years. I then served as full-time youth pastor for 16 years, and I've also taught the youth ministry module in the Irish Bible Institute since 2007. I moved into this full-time role with YMD in 2019. And YMD, Youth Ministry Development, comes alongside local churches to help them develop ministry to young people. Our main focal points are YMD hubs, which we host once a month in various locations around the country so that those who are serving teens in their church can find support and encouragement. YMD hubs have been running online since February of this year. Our preference is for in-person gatherings, but this hasn't been possible since March of 2020. These online hubs have met once a month for support and encouragement, as well as receiving some tips and training. And those who've been part of the hubs have shared that they found them to be exactly that, supportive and encouraging. So Cherry in Carrigaline writes, I've always been encouraged by the time, especially the scripture focus, which has been a great blessing each time. Thanks so much for hosting and your support and encouragement. Nick in Cavan writes, thank you for all your work in making these happen. Heidi in Shankill writes, I wanted to say thank you for those really encouraging words. It's really nice that you understand. And those truths about the Lord are just so good to be said and restated. Thank you for such refreshing encouragement. And Philomena in Ballycullen writes, thank you so much for all your thought, prayer and care that you put into these hubs. Well, if you'd like to be part of a hub, you can get in touch via our website, ymd.ie. I'd also like to share with you a couple of longer term examples of people who've been supported by YMD in developing their ministry to teens. Brianna in County Galway was new to the role of youth in her church. She made contact last summer and we met up a couple of times to chat about their context. We had some good focused discussion around purpose and long-term goals. Brianna then took the youth ministry module in IBI and set in place good foundations for their youth group. And so throughout this last year, they've had an engaged and participating group of teens. Brianna has also been part of the online hub since February, and this year she said she's really appreciated that ongoing support. She and I met again a few weeks ago to review the year and to think and pray towards the future. Secondly, a church in County Meath set up a youth group a few years ago following discussions with YMD. This last year, they got in touch for some evaluation and training. They've been doing a great job, but they didn't feel confident in their approach or in articulating their vision and goals to others in the church. Well, we've met about 4 or 5 times over the last few months, sometimes in person, sometimes online. And with guidance and training, they've put in place some key foundational principles which they can now share with the church, with parents, and with potential volunteers. And they're continuing to develop their ability to teach the Bible effectively to teens in their youth group. Well, what about you? Following all the COVID disruptions and now hopefully getting into a more active space, there may be a few things that you're thinking about. Like, how do we restart a youth group this side of COVID? Especially when we don't even know who we've got anymore. Or perhaps, how do we reconnect with teens in our church when they're not coming to church or seem to have disengaged completely? Well, as you consider these things, YMD is available to help you think through and plan for the future. And there are at least 2 key questions that are important to be thinking about as you look to September and beyond. Firstly, who are the people we're serving and what do they need? That can be broken down into a number of related questions. What have we been offering to our young people prior to COVID, or what do we already offer them? And now this side of COVID, who are the people we're serving and what do they need right now? Are we offering them something of real worth and value, or are we sort of just filling time? And is the substance of what we do the same thing that's really needed by the young people? And if I were a teen, would I feel it's worth my while to participate? The second key question is, what do we want for our young people in the long term? And this is probably more a foundational question. And again, this can be broken down into a number of related questions. For instance, what is the purpose of our youth ministry or our ministry to young people? What would we love to be true in these young people's lives in their student and adult years? What can we provide now that contributes effectively towards that long-term goal, putting in place foundations that will last beyond their time as teens? And what should we offer young people that meets their needs both in the short term and the long term? Well, YMD exists to help churches, people like you, to think through questions like this and not only come up with good answers, but provide the training and support to assist in developing ministry to young people that addresses their deepest needs with something real and of value. Now, hopefully this sounds appealing and interesting, but you may be distracted by the potential cost. Well, you can relax. YMD provides its services free of charge to local churches so that money is never an issue. YMD is supported by generous donations from individuals, churches, and other groups, and there are details of this on our website. Well, if you would like to be part of the Hub, you can get in touch via our website, ymd.ie, where you can indicate how you'd like to connect with us. Participating in a Hub gives you the opportunity to find regular support and encouragement throughout the year, while getting to know others in your area who are serving teens in similar contexts. Alternatively, you can request a visit to chat one-to-one with a group of volunteers or leaders from your church. We'll sit down with you and listen carefully so that we understand your context before offering suggestions and advice. And we can also provide training and discussion sessions for volunteers for either a single church or a group of churches. And for those who want to spend more focused time in training, YMD partners with IBI to teach the youth ministry module, and you can register for this module through the IBI website, ibi.ie. We know this has been a hugely challenging time for everyone involved in any kind of ministry, as well as for those we serve. There have been many disappointments and discouragements along the way. And yet we belong to a loving Father who is bigger than the circumstances, and he calls us to trust him through it all, knowing that he sees the bigger picture and that as followers of Jesus, he holds us securely in his hands. And while these are truths that we'd love teens in our church group to understand and grasp, COVID has forced us to remind ourselves that these truths apply to us too. The reality for many of us is that we currently don't know who is still part of our group or who will be at the far end of the summer. Some of you may have in-person meetups planned over the next few months. Others of you probably can't even bear to think about that just now. The future is so uncertain and unknown. And yet, it always is. May God help us to have complete confidence in him and in his ability to care for those that he has placed under our care. May he help us face the future, knowing that the gospel is unstoppable. And may he help us rest in the reality of his loving care over our lives. Well, thank you for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you really soon.